Hello everybody, Ace here, giving it to you straight with day 95 of the video log challenge, and today I wanted to talk to you all about spiritual narcissism, because we already talked about spiritual ego, but what is the next level of spiritual ego? And to me it's spiritual narcissism, so today we'll talk a little bit about that. Now, when I was talking about spiritual ego, again, everything I talk about is usually based in trauma. If we have an ego, it's because it's unaddressed trauma from our past that we haven't take out to look at. And our egos are trying to protect us from that trauma we've experienced before. So what's spiritual narcissism, right? Spiritual narcissism, to me, is this capacity to feed on people's spiritual light, to feed on people's spiritual energy by almost becoming a, how do you say, chameleon, where you show people a part of you that is very highly spirited, that's motivated, that's well put together, right? So everything on the surface is looking really amazing, and it looks like that person truly wants to help people, and in reality, they really do. The issue with narcissism is that you lack empathy, and when you lack empathy and you're in the spiritual community, it's just not going to work. Now, oftentimes, these people can be very successful. They could have amazing online courses. They could be great coaches. They could, they could be the greatest thing since sliced bread again. But who are they when nobody's looking? Who are they to those people in their lives that are closest to them? And who are they really to themselves? Because again, it's not, everything isn't on the surface. Just because you look like you have everything together, do you actually have it together? And that is where we start to split from spiritual ego to spiritual narcissism. Because everyone has an ego. It's what we need in this life to survive. It's the human part of us. Because again, especially with empathic people, especially those people who, how do you say, they give a lot, right? And potentially could even be neurotic themselves, where they, instead of, narcissists kind of turn their anger and pain outward, and they try to take and reap, and neurotics turn it in on themselves, and they self-poison. And most of the time, because obviously opposites attract, neurotics and narcissists come together, and the narcissist feeds on the neurotic, and then the neurotic is fed by the neediness of the narcissist, and that's how those relationships form, and they usually become codependent, in which the narcissist needs the energy from the neurotic, and the neurotic needs the attention from the narcissist, and then they control each other that way. The neurotic feeling like the victim because this narcissist is on them, the narcissist feeling like the victim because the neurotic isn't doing what they want, and in the end, it's the two sides of the same coin. It's trauma-based, and it's based in the idea that we haven't faced the trauma from our lives. Therefore, we create these programs, these human programs in which we live by, usually in a form of decay. Because even narcissists who are successful are very, very unhappy usually. Unless they're controlling, unless they're in control, unless they're getting what they want. But here's the thing about narcissism and neuroticism is, it's kind of like you're only going to get as good as you're going to get. You know what I'm saying? You can't take it to the next level because your narcissism or your neuroticism is going to actually cut you off at the knees and not actually help you take you to that next level. That's not to say that you're not going to be externally successful. That's not going to say that you won't have some successful relationships. But the issue with narcissists and neurotics, but specifically narcissists, is there's nobody there to check them. And when they get checked, they freak out and they start to hurt people. They attack. They'll manipulate, they'll propagate, they'll do whatever they can to protect that ego, to protect that trauma, that thorn in them. And no matter who it is, it could be their mom, it could be their wife, there could be their husband, their kids. As soon as that thorn is triggered or touched, the narcissist goes crazy, and then they go on to the attack, and then that's where they start to really try to drive that emotional terrorism down onto people, to keep their energy to a point where they can control it, they can overburden it. And that's what we're seeing a lot happening, especially in our community, but across the world, is you have all these people who thought that they were further than they were, and now all this shit's happening, Again, even in their own lives, microcosm to the macrocosm, as above, so below, as within, so without. And when you have those situations and you have people who don't have that control, whose facade falls by the wayside, the mask comes off, and all of a sudden their true nature's there. And because of this great awakening, because of the raising of a human collective consciousness, people are now seeing those red flags and are not being woed by them. The charisma isn't working as much anymore. Um, I call it the Motown, right? Where people are like, hey man, like, it's okay. You don't need to worry about that. I got your back. And, they come in you and they start to Motown you and start to, you know, throw their charisma on, right? But what happens when you look at them and you go, it ain't working, man. Like, talk to me like a human. All of a sudden, the real nature comes out, and that's the key to look out for in your relationships, because narcissism is very subtle. It's very unconscious, because obviously a narcissist isn't going to be conscious of his narcissism, and if they are, then it's because they're a sociopath as well. So if you find yourself around narcissistic sociopaths, I'd probably take the next train out of town, because you can't fix them. And I'm not saying they can't fix themselves. I'm not saying they can't heal themselves, but you, as the empath, as a light worker, as a light warrior, cannot fix them. And when you put yourself out there for these narcissistic sociopaths to suck the life force from you, then you risk becoming a neurotic again. You risk becoming a narcissist yourself, because your ego, which you haven't healed yet, is now being triggered and being taken advantage of. And because we're not strong enough to ruffle feathers, to stand in our truth, to stand our ground as a lion that we are, we allow the narcissists to take us down, to take advantage of us, and then we start compromising ourselves, and that's when we'll start forming ego, or we'll start forming narcissism, or we'll start forming neuroticism, because we don't know how to deal with the energy blockage of compromising ourselves for other people, because we're too scared, because the narcissist is so intense, so charismatic, so suave, right? So much swag. But when you start seeing people like coming at you like this and talking and using their eyes to get at, it's spell casting, guys. It's fucking spell casting. Why do you think I come on these videos and I just give it to you straight? Because I'm not trying to cast spells on you. I don't need to use music to get my point across. I don't need to use high energy images to lull your left side of your brain down so I can feed knowledge into your right brain like they do with programming in the news. That's all narcissistic bullshit. That's why we're the sheep now, is because we've been lulled into this idea that we're the sheep, but in reality we're all lions and we're all fractals of God. But because we feel like we're separate from that fact, because we're so scared of what other people will think of us, because we feel everything, we allow all these people to come in and take advantage of us. And then we don't understand why we only attract narcissists. Because in reality, we don't like when our egos get checked by people who are more spiritually advanced than we are, who are more advanced on this human journey as we are, and who have cleared more of their trauma. So even we have spiritual ego, even we have spiritual narcissism, and that is what attracts the other narcissists, because we just want to be wanted. That's our narcissism. We want to be wanted. We want to heal. We want to help the world. We want to do all these things for all these other people, because in reality, we don't want to do those things for ourselves. And then all of a sudden we find somebody who's this bright spirit, has this great light. No, they're feeding off of your light. And that's why when your light is depleted and you no longer have anything to give, all of a sudden they're not lighted anymore. All of a sudden they're not inspirited anymore. And all of a sudden now you're just chopped liver. You're just a warm body for them to be next to, so that they can use your ability to absorb other people's bullshit and clear it through your aura. That's what they'll do. That's what they use. They want to use your aura to clear their shit. That's why narcissists tend to be in really good shape, while the people they're around tend to fucking fall apart. They are literally sapping the energy. They're energy vampires, sapping the energy. And spiritual narcissism is the highest form of narcissism, because they've cleared enough trauma to make it look like they're spiritual. They cleared enough trauma to gain access to maybe their solar plexus chakra, maybe even touch a little bit in their heart chakra. But as soon as everything doesn't happen exactly how they want it to happen on the timeline that they want it to happen, their heart closes and they start attacking. So start to be really conscious and being very aware of everything happening around you and take yourself out of it. Stop blaming yourself for the feelings you have. Stop blaming yourself for feeling icky because it could be somebody else. Your gift is emotion. But because our gift is emotion, you have narcissists that come in and try to suck our emotional energy out of us. That's why we have to protect ourselves. We got to put on the armor of God, or put on or create little force fields, or check people when they're doing stuff like emotional terrorism. There's keys to emotional terrorism, and you can listen to it in the words that people say to you. When they say things like, "Oh, but you knew what I mean. You know what I meant." Or, oh, you shouldn't look at me that way when I'm saying these things because you know who I am. Don't you trust me? Yeah, I'm not cheating. Are you cheating? Baby, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. You said that I promise this time I won't do it again. I love you. Remember that one time we did that one thing and I was really kind to you for like 3 minutes? Remember that one time? They play on the heartstrings. They play on memories, fond memories, while completely negating all of the negative shit that is happening. And because they're playing off of your trauma and they're playing off of your want to be unified, your need to have love and light in your life, you just give away your power. And that's why it's imperative now that we are more aware of spiritual ego, especially now. Especially with politics the way it is, especially what's happening across the world. There's so many freaking people talking about God, talking about the Bible, talking about all this dogmatic bullshit. I'm not saying God's dogmatic. I'm saying the dogma that is behind God. And I'm not saying the Bible is bullshit. I'm saying it's a half-truth book that's been misinterpreted, mistranslated, missing information, and is basically translated and interpreted in such a way that it just confuses people even more. So you have all the churches with their 501c3s, with their 666 organizations that, you know what I'm saying? Like, you think about these things, people. Look at your church. Look at your pastors. Look at the spiritual leaders in your community. And I'm not saying if you're not in the church, this is for church people and this is for non-church people. I'm not a church person. I don't trust 501c3s. It's all blood money. It's all blood money from the Vatican and from the Rothschilds. So you have a church who is getting tax breaks from the government, and they're there wearing masks, socially distancing, following the bullshit CDC and WHO guidelines, and not actually preaching you anything about ascension, not actually preaching you anything about how the body is your temple and how Jesus really wanted us to go within to raise our cerebral spinal fluid from our lower chakras into our brain so that we can finally access the living kingdom, which is just our higher self, which is just a higher vibration of who we are. Look at all of the shit that's happening. Look at all of the stuff people are spewing, the news networks, the education institutions, the bar association, the legal system, the government, the local municipalities, all of the bureaucratic red tape, the intelligence agencies, the news networks. Look at all of it. It's all using ego and narcissism to manipulate those who are susceptible because we're scared, because we're separate, and because we still keep giving our power away while believing we're not making any of these fucking choices. But we're making these choices every moment of every day. Every relationship you are in, you make a choice to be in it. Every time you get manipulated by a narcissist, it's because you allowed it to happen. And every time you're out there blaming everyone else for why a narcissist is taking advantage of you, it's because you allowed it and you compromised yourself, and you're not actually mad at them, you're mad at you. Because you've seen the red flags, you see all of the red flags, and you discount them because you don't believe in yourself, you don't trust yourself, because you yourself don't have a connection to the divine, and you yourself may have some ego there that needs to be checked because you haven't gone back into your past to check your trauma. So I talked about spiritual narcissism. I explained to you what it's all about. And now I'm telling you it's on you to cut it at the knees. And if people stop feeding the narcissist their energy, the narcissist will go away. You can look at people when they're caught. Look at the narcissists that are caught on camera having to give an apology or a retraction or something like that, and look at them. Look at the defeatedness in them. Look at the scared little boy or girl that has been hidden for so many years, decades potentially, that comes out and it's just like, I'm just lost. And we want to be there for them, and we can be there for them, but that doesn't mean that all of a sudden, because they have a little bit of remorse, that they're not going to go right back into their narcissistic ways. Because if you don't do anything to change anything from your past, you're going to keep doing the same shit in your present, and it's going to continue to create the same bullshit in your future. So just check your narcissism, check your ego, and then when you start to check that trauma that creates all of that, you'll start to be able to see everybody else. And you'll start to see that it's not all this shit that you feel and all these triggers and all, it's not even yours. And it's actually a gift, because now you can walk into a room vibing, catching the vibes of the entire room. And all of a sudden, when people come up to you, you immediately can feel their energy and you know who they are and you trust it. And when you trust it, that's when you can actually start to help people. You can't help people bending over backwards for them. You can't help people taking off your shirt for them. You can only help people by being the beacon, pushing your energy out there that's overflowing, not giving it, being the catalyst, which I'll make a video on catalyst next, and demonstrating, being demonstrable in your light, demonstrating to people that your behavior is not acceptable. I still love you. We can work through it, but you're not allowed to behave like that. You start treating these narcissists, these scared little boys or girls, like scared little boys and girls, and you stand in your sovereignty and your truth without getting triggered, without emotion, without feeling and all that, and be the adult and be the mature one and be the way shower, all of a sudden, everyone starts to heal. But it requires us to heal first. So if you find yourself today being mad at someone else, figure out why you're mad at yourself and how is that reflecting that anger you have for you through them. Because this thing's a giant hologram for us to view ourselves and each other by, so that we can continue to grow. I hope you get a little bit further on your path today. I hope you gain a little bit more clarity on your journey. I hope you can bring in a little bit more love into your heart, so that you can see that you don't deserve to be taken advantage of by narcissists, especially spiritual narcissists on this ascension path, who haven't even ascended themselves, who haven't even walked their talk and flied their vision. If you're reaching, if you're yearning for someone outside yourself for these answers and for this path, it's because you still haven't gone into your past and healed. And you yourself may be falling into victims of egoism and narcissism and neuroticism. So look at yourself today. Check yourself today. And then start looking at all the relationships in your life and see if they're actually serving you, or if you are just getting something from them and they're just getting something from you. And in reality, the rest of the time it's just bullshit and decay. So if you liked what you've seen and heard today, hit that like button. If you want to join the Army of Energy, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Telegram at Army of Energy. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have an even better evening. And I will see you all at the same time tomorrow. Take care and goodbye.